Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. Police shootings at street protests, a fierce crackdown against dissenters, journalists, the killing or jailing of thousands of supporters of a now-banned Islamist movement, terror attacks in the rest of North, a crumbling economy. The list of alarming headlines out of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's Egypt grows longer by the day. Nearly 2 years after Sisi, a former general, ousted the man who appointed him, Egypt's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, many Egyptians fear their country is veering off a democratic path, way off that path. And my guest today is Bernard Rougier. Welcome to our studios.
Hi.
You're a political science professor, but more importantly, you are a specialist in Middle Eastern studies. You're based in the country we're talking about. You're in Cairo, author of several books on the region and on the subject. But for our purposes today, also the co-editor of Egypt in Revolutions. It's now only in French, but plural, Revolutions.
It will be soon published in English.
Soon to be published in
Within
English?
2 months, yeah.
Very good. The book basically asks a very basic question, has a bunch of essays addressing the topic.
Exactly.
Where is Egypt going? Where is it headed? I want to start with a basic question. You've heard of the Jimmy Carter Center, election observer, human rights observer. They closed their field office in Egypt a few months ago, back in October. And why? They cited a polarized political environment and a narrow space for civil society, for the media, for political parties. They said, we basically just can't work here anymore. Do you sense a lot of Egyptians are beginning to feel similarly?
No, I think for the moment at least, many Egyptians, maybe the majority of Egyptians, are still backing President al-Sisi. And the more the Westerners are criticizing Egypt rightly, the more the Egyptians are getting nationalist, saying, okay, they don't like us, we are going to be Egyptian nationalists, defend our country against foreigners. So it has side effects, you know, when you are starting to criticize or to close institutions, in a way, it gives more legitimacy.
It gives ammunition.
Exactly, to those who are saying, well, we can't rebuild Egypt without those people.
So there's a bit of defiance among Egyptians to the Western reaction.
Exactly.
It sounds a little bit like Vladimir Putin's Russia. The more the West criticizes Russia, the more the Russians become patriotic.
Yes, that's true. But you have also to take into account that there is a general feeling people are tired about the revolutions. They had a lot of expectations, and those expectations were not fulfilled during the years of the revolutionary years. So they are saying, okay, we have tried this, we have tried the Ikhwan, the brothers, we have tried, and they didn't manage to sustain the economy, recovery, and so on. So let's get rid of those disorders and go back to work. Many Egyptians are thinking like this. This is why, of course, there is a decrease in the democratical life. I mean, this is something obvious. But the main purpose right now, the main objective is the economical recovery.
But, you know, you were saying many Egyptians feel like they tried the other thing. They tried the Islamists. It was a year.
Yeah.
It was 1 year.
You're absolutely...
Did Mohamed Morsi have a chance?
No, you're right. It's true. And as a matter of fact, he didn't even govern really Egypt during that period. And that period explains the situation we are right now. It was... This is really a waste in a certain way, a political waste during those years, because, how to say it, instead of building a national constituency, instead of building a new constitution and instilling confidence among citizens, exactly the opposite happened during all those years. There were kind of existential fear for the secularists who were afraid of the Islamists, of the Salafi discourse, the extremism, and so on. And this happened in an atmosphere of freedom. You know, you had a lot of freedom in the media, especially, and the talk shows. So you had this constitutional debate and a great amount of freedom and free speech. So people got afraid because you had this fear from what are we going to become
everything.
In that constituency. Everything became existential. So you had this existential fear in the two camps, which explain why you have many liberals who don't denounce the abuses of human rights in Egypt, because they were so afraid during this period. They say, okay, let's accept this military rule if we have to keep our way of life as it is, not threatened by the Islamists.
Isn't there an irony here? You raised this point in the preface to this book here. The Muslim Brotherhood was created, it was born in Egypt.
Yeah.
And now it is absolutely banned, and as I mentioned at the beginning, many of its supporters are either dead, in jail, or on the run.
Yeah. And you have other currents. This is the big fear. I mean, those people were ready to cooperate. They were partner during the Hosni Mubarak regime. They were partner of the state. Now they are no more Islamist partner of the state. And so the big fear is does it mean the end of political Islam? Obviously, no. So who is going to replace the Brotherhood? Will Egypt witness the birth of new trends, much more radical?
More dangerous trends is what I'm asking.
This is a big fear. I mean, this is really a big fear.
By banning the Islamist Brotherhood, are you giving the spark to more extremists?
This is the big fear. But at the same time, you can also have this kind of repressive policy for a while, then get the Brotherhood within the system, get them back within the system.
Who's going to let them back in?
Maybe General al-Sisi.
He calls them terrorists.
I know, but those who denounce the violence, the use of violence, who don't have any blood on their records, maybe some of them will be back on the political scene within 6 months, 1 or 2 years. God knows what might happen. I think it will be very hard for the states to continue such repressive policy in the future. At a certain moment, they will have to build, to open up the political space. I think it cannot continue for very long. But for the time being, there is a need to rebuild the state. I mean, there's a feeling among many Egyptians that the state has been weakened and even humiliated during those 3 or 4 years. And so they have to rebuild the state in order to maybe in the future open up the political space to other partners.
Let me put the devil's advocate argument to you. You say that at some point perhaps they'll have to open up again, but why? The United States continues to give Egypt hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid, and we just saw France sell 5 billion euros worth of fighter planes.
It's true, because everybody is afraid of the jihadist threat, and everybody thinks that the Jaysh, in Arabic, the army, is the sole protector of the state in Egypt. So, would you prefer to see the jihadists Ansar Beit al-Maqdis take over Cairo, the biggest Arabic capital in the world? No way. So you have to, this last line of defense is the military army. So you have this, the core of the state is made up of those militaries. So,
but
this is why you don't have
I understand,
any choice.
but let me just ask you. I just have to get this question in. Why does it have to be either or? Can you not have a democratic regime in power and also a regime that is an ally with the West in what the West would call its fight against jihadists? Why does it have to be an authoritarian regime that's helping us fight jihadists?
That's the true question. I do agree with you, because there was not time enough to build a true democracy at that time. The Brotherhood also have a responsibility in what happened. I mean, they didn't really govern Egypt, but the certain decisions that they took were catastrophic decisions and were nourishing the fear among others. So instead, also, they could have built an alliance with the revolutionaries. They didn't even try. And when they said we are open to build alliances with revolutionary camps, it was too late.
Okay, we're running out of time. Let me ask you this, though. Perhaps the Muslim Brotherhood in power, or Mohamed Morsi, they were their own worst enemies, as we say in English. But isn't the West's perhaps policy of appeasement right now of Sisi, could it not backfire? Could it lead, if they keep supporting a president who's accused of repressive tactics, could it not lead to more radicalism, more extremism?
But what we don't know exactly for the moment is the President al-Sisi, you know, when he made a speech at the police during the feast of the annual feast of the Egyptian police, and he said that they didn't agree to certain acts who were committed. It's not clear. maybe the police also wants to rebuild its own autonomy. You know, there is a tension or maybe a fight within the state between the army and the police. So it's not quite clear, you know, and the judges also have their own verdicts, sometimes very radical verdicts. It's not quite clear to accuse al-Sisi of being responsible of half the deeds of this state.
I'm just going to bring it back to what I said. I see another parallel with Vladimir Putin. Maybe I'm being too obsessed with Russia, but they're saying, well, it's not Putin who's calling all the shots, people acting on their own forces within society.
Yeah.
You're letting them off the hook, as we say.
That's true, but I don't know. I'm still optimistic. In a certain way, let me tell me why. For
Very briefly.
One reason is that the regime, if it continues to be repressive, as it is right now, it doesn't have the means to continue. It's impossible to be repressive to that level in the long term. Impossible. So it doesn't have the means, so it will not be like it was in the past, and it will not be in the future, hopefully, as repressive as it is in the present.
Ready for this? One-word answer. You're going to hate me. Are we going back to Hosni Mubarak's regime?
No, because...
That's it, one word.
Okay, it's over.
No. And next time when you come back for another interview, we'll pick up from that. Okay. Not going back to Hosni Mubarak, but as you suggest, an Egyptian society with a lot of forces within society at odds, fighting for influence and perhaps for a bit of power. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the president, perhaps is not the ultimate man in control.
No. And just to tell you that also it is a very politicized society. The experience of the revolution is not lost.
Is not lost.
No.
We're going to leave it there. Bernard Rougier, co-editor of a new book called Egypt in Revolutions, which will be coming out shortly, I am told, in English.
Yep.
And a political science professor and a specialist on the Mideast based in Cairo. Thanks for being our guest today.
You.
Thanks to all of you for watching the interview. More news just ahead.